Parts of a new Arkansas law aimed at keeping obscene materials away from minors are now on hold. A federal judge temporarily blocked certain measures after a group of libraries and bookstores sued. Now, under those measures, librarians and bookstores could face criminal charges just for keeping certain books on their shelves. They would also have to keep questionable books in separate sections where minors aren't allowed. Let's bring in ABC's Brad Mielke, host of the Start Here podcast, for more. Brad, what exactly would these measures mean for librarians and bookstores and workers therein if they do go into effect?
Well, that's the thing, because there's been an injunction on this now, which librarians say is much needed, because this is a pretty serious law, or really it's an amended law. They've had, in Arkansas, there have been obscenities laws for decades. A lot of states have these, where it makes it illegal to furnish lewd works or obscene works to a minor. However, there have always been carve-outs for educational settings. So museums, libraries, bookstores, it's perfectly, no one's getting, criminally charged for, giving a minor or a student a book that has a sex scene in it. That would change under this potential law, and that is why some of these libraries are saying effectively you'd have to have your children's wing completely blocked off from the rest of the library, where you'd have to somehow actually stop kids from going into the spot where all the books are that could conceivably even have questionable material.
So what would be considered obscene under these parts of the law? That's
the thing that is so confusing here. So I talked to the head of Little Rock's central library system, and he basically said there's no delineation in this law between ages. So a minor is a minor. A 6-year-old is considered the same as a 17-year-old. And he says it's perfectly normal for a 17-year-old studying American literature, or even classic literature, for there to be like a sex scene or something like that, or a nude painting, right? when they're studying art. It's very normal for that to happen. He says it's very abnormal for a 6-year-old to wander around and stumble on things. But under this law, it's not just illegal to check books out like this to a minor. It's illegal if they even lay eyes on the thing. And that's why they say would we have to have a security guard? Would we have a bouncer, as if this is like a dirty bookshop, keeping kids physically out of the area that their own parents are allowed to go in and browse?
So what's the other part of this argument? Why do advocates say this is necessary?
Well, that's the thing. So, a lot of, people who have been on the side of this law going into effect have effectively said, I don't want my kid to be proselytized to. I don't want that helpful librarian or that helpful bookstore owner telling my kid, hey, you know what I think you're old enough for now? You're 15 or you're 12 or whatever. This is something you should see. So I asked the central library system about this, and they said that's not what happens. He says if you've ever met a librarian, they're not proselytizing to people. In fact, he says a lot of them are introverts. They're not looking to go out and talk to your kid about, much of anything. But he says they have an unrelenting focus on just helping people find the stuff that they're already interested in. So he says, parents should be spending more time with their kid. They have every right to be seeing what their kid reads because they should be at the library with them. He says if you think that, books are the biggest issue here, you should see what your kid has access to on their computer, on their phone, that actually has a lot more questionable material. And he also says, make no mistake, this is not just about, a small group of concerned parents. These are larger groups that are really trying to get books off the shelves because they know these libraries can't afford to have security guards bouncing people out of there.
So what happens with this next? Is there a way for concerned parents to prevent the thing that librarians say isn't happening anyway without crossing over into the area where librarians are concerned that they can't play this role?
Yeah, I think according to the library, they're basically saying, listen, there is a robust system for making sure that the books we have on the shelves are appropriate for people. He says there are actual, protocols in place. The other part of this law that would, if it went into effect, would be to have the state involved with deciding which books should be there. And again, there's been an injunction placed on that as well.
All right, before you go, I need to ask you about this 46,000-year-old worm. Did it really come back to life? What's the deal here?
Okay, this is insane, Diane. So scientists in Germany and Russia were looking through the permafrost in Siberia, right? The stuff that's been frozen for thousands and thousands of years. In it, there's a little nematode. It's like a roundworm, like the stuff that comes out of your dog sometimes. So it's a gross little worm, right? But after they melt this ice, finally melts, this worm comes back to life. They tested the ice. It had been frozen for 46,000 years.
And it just woke up?
It didn't just wake up, Diane. It started making babies. This was a female worm that, and the life cycle for these worms, by the way, about 2 months. So it probably had been frozen a few weeks into its life, got pregnant, they reproduced asexually, started making babies again. So this shows never give up. Never give up, Diane. You can keep living your life.
Did they freak out when this happened? Like, oh, let's look at this frozen. Ah, It's moving. It's procreating.
So these are.
I have images of someone like waking up in their casket at a funeral, like that kind of a scene happening in the lab.
But well, apparently this has happened before. Apparently these worms like have been known to enter the state of what are they? Basically stasis. It's like hibernation. But they've never seen it happen after 46,000 years before.
All right, that's some good stuff. Brad Milkey, thank you. And to hear Brad dive into more stories like these, check out the Start Here podcast. New episodes drop weekday mornings at 6 Eastern, wherever you get your podcasts.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.